Dyson was the GM. I said, Marv, if you want to do this, I said, we're going to have to go for the jugular. The first thing we got to do is to get rid of the Hot Mix 5. We got to take them off the station, okay? And I began to cherry pick the best of the BMX talent. I brought Doug Banks over, had him on 7 to midnight at the time. Bob Wall was still on during the mornings. And, we just built this incredible station. Tom Joyner was doing afternoons.
Flyjack, right?
Flyjack. Well, this was even, Flyjack time.
Dallas in the morning.
Exactly.
And here in the afternoon.
And Yvonne Daniels doing midday. I mean, it was an incredible staff. I mean, really. And the station went from the 4 shares straight to the top in like a book and a half. And, it was...
So BMX collapsed that fast.
Yeah. As fast as BMX went up, it went down when we pulled all the major parts from it and put it on GCI. And I was there for about 15, 18 months, left the market, went to KMEL, which I was telling you about earlier. And then when I came back to the market, I came back to BMX. Now
did they ask you did Sonderling ask you
yes.
to come back?
I was sitting in the Californian hotel one day. I got a call from Egmont Sonderling on my hotel phone, and how he found me, I don't know. But he surprised me. He says, "Hey, this is Egmont." I said, "I never thought I'd hear from you again. We fell out over 5Gs." Yeah, I know. He says, you make mistakes in life sometimes, and we went through this whole philosophical conversation. He said, "Look, have you thought about coming back to Chicago?" I said, "Well, I'll be back there this weekend." I said, I'm closing on a house in 19 days up in northern Marin County. My family's coming out in a few months, and boop-de-boop-de-boop. He goes, "No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about coming back to work." I said, "Egmont, I'm working at KMEL. I got a contract, and, again, I'm getting ready to close on a house." He goes, "What would it take for you to come back?" He said, "Let me explain something to you. I've got a deal on the table that's hinged upon you coming back to my station." Now, when
deal meaning
offered to buy the station,
okay,
and he was ready to sell because he was 80-something at that time.
So WBMX, so it's not that the station fell apart and died. It's
no.
The man who owned the station was ready to enjoy whatever years he had left, and he had a deal on the table for the station.
But the deal was $10 million more than what the station was worth or valued based on the multiples, based on the cash flow and ratings and what have you. When I left BMX, the station was worth, based on cash flow, $27.5 million. By time he had this deal on the table, the station was worth $17 million. So it lost $10 million in value because of the flip-flop in the ratings. He indicated to me that Joe Dorton wanted to buy this station and was willing to pay the $27.5 hinged on me coming back because I was the architect of making it what it was, and they thought that I could do it again. And I said, "Wow, that's that's sensational." And I said, "Well, look, Egmont, it would cost you $1 million to get me to come back." Now, was I asking for $1 million? No, that's not what I meant. It was a figure of speech. He says, "Is that your number?" And then I realized he thought that's what I meant. I said, "Are you serious? You'll pay me $1 million to come back?" And this is a guy that didn't want to pay me $5,000 more than what I was willing to take. I said, "Okay, let me talk it over with my family, and I'll get back to you." But before I said that, I remember taking the phone. I said, "Can you hold on a second?" I put the phone down on the bed. I took 2 pillows and put it on top of the phone, went in the bathroom and went, "Shit! Yes! This is unreal!" So I came back out, cool, calm, collected, composed, and said, "Look, let me talk it over with my family." I said, "I got a lot going on here. I got this house that I'm going to close on. I've got a contract." He said, "Look, don't worry about the contract. I know the owner of the station out there. I'll work something out."
Now, were they independently owned out there, too?
Yes.
At that time?
Yeah. Gaffman, they owned a station or two here. 103 something, I can't remember. But they did own an FM station here in town as well. And they were acquaintances. But anyway, he said, "Don't worry about that. I can get you out of the contract. You work out the house situation, but, we need you to come back." So I called my wife and talked it over, and she said, look, I want to be in San Francisco, but if they're going to pay you that kind of money, we can always go to San
live
Francisco.
in Antarctica.
Exactly.
You can always afford to buy the heat, get the
So,
heat.
I went back and talked it over with the management there. The GM didn't like it at all. She went on a drinking binge after that, and she was a wreck. She wanted to have me shot, but as it turns out, Egmont and the owner of the station in San Francisco worked out a deal. I ended up doing a $2.5 million deal, 2-year guaranteed, no cut, no ifs, ands, and buts. All I needed to do was come back, fulfill my obligations, and then there was a bonus package on top of that. If I hit certain things, I would get more money. And I came back. Mm-hmm. And
now, what year did you come back?
87-ish.
Okay, BMX was kind of languishing,
something like that. Yeah,
was languishing.
BMX was still, treading water.
All right, now, Frankie, at that point in time, because the Hot Mix 5 had gone through changes.
They had gone over to GCI, and they were still there.
And then the Super Mix. So Frankie, take it from there, mix show wise, and in the philosophies while Lee was gone, and then when he came back too.
When you guys left,
mm-hmm.
I was part of the Hot Mix 5, but they never really gave
the alternate guy.
No, I was on full time,
right.
But didn't own part of that company.
That's right.
They let me stay on the air with them for 3-4 years, but they never really embraced me into the company.
Right.
I just worked on BMX. I was paid through BMX. I was never paid through the Hot Mix 5. So and actually Julian was the same way.
Right.
So when they made the switch over to GCI, and you're talking about one of my best friends in the whole world, Kenny Jason, who I called him and said, "Hey Kenny, am I coming with you?" And he's like, "No, they only want to take us 5." And I'm like, "You're kidding me. Where's that going to leave me?" And he goes, "Well, fend for yourself." You know what I mean? So I went to Marco Spoon, who was now the PD.
Right.
I said, "Marco, what are we going to do?" He goes, "I want you. I don't want anybody else." I'm like, "What? You're going to do what?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm bringing in all these new guys. I'm bringing in Andre Harris. I'm bringing in a bunch of underground house cats that really had no mainstream. It was very underground, very one-sided type of mixers he was bringing in. And it was the Taste of Chicago." And I said, "Dude, if you know that the Taste of Chicago for the past 3 or 4 years, that's our highlight. Yeah. We're going to have 10,000 people by the freaking tent. The city shuts us down. I mean, you can see pictures on the website. I got pictures up there. You can't just have all this underground, whacked-out music. I mean, you got to have that Hot Mix 5 style of music." And Marco told me to my face, he's like, "Dude, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to change it all up." So basically, everything that Lee laid down to make it a successful place, it was in the hands of some guy that had his own idea, and he wanted to be the superstar. Right. So the way for him to get on the map is, I'm going to throw everything out Lee did. I'm going to rewrite the book. In the middle of the freaking summer when it was our balls to the walls time of the year. So without Marco knowing, I showed up at the Taste of Chicago, and I called Julian, who was not on the radio anymore, and I said, "You got to come. They want us." And Julian was working at the jail at the time as a jail guard. True story. And he goes, "Dude, I'm not giving up this job to go hang out at the Taste of Chicago." I go, "Dude, you got to do it." And he goes, "All right." We didn't have an extra set of turntables. He goes, "Well, let's stop by this kid's house that's got some turntables." I go, "Who?" He goes, Blaster Bill. That was his nickname back then. It was Bad Boy Bill. So I said, "Okay, Bill, you're coming with us." He was like 15, 16, right?
Yeah.
And he's in his pajamas, and he goes, "Well, I got to go to school." I go, "F school, dude. You're going to the Taste of Chicago. We're spinning." So I showed up with Julian and Bill. Marco hit the ceiling like, "Who are these white guys?" He goes, "I got to have more of a presence with the urban community. We're gonna flip this. I'm putting my own thing together." I go, "F you, Marco. If these guys ain't spinning with me, I'm not doing it." As it turned out, they sent everyone home and just left me, Julian, and Bill to handle the Taste of Chicago, because when these guys came on the spin, they had no clue what the audience wanted. The audience wanted to hear what they're used to conditioned to hearing, what Lee put together. But then he started making those changes in the station where okay, I'm going to make my mark. I don't need to play that. I don't need to play this. Again, he forgot where it all came from.
Yep.
I mean, Lee didn't sit there and play songs because he liked them. I mean, that's what a good PD's not going to sit there and go, well, I really love this record, that's why I'm playing it, and I don't care what anybody else said. No.
That's suicide.
No, he played it because he knew there was something there.
Yep.
I remember him coming up to us at a Christmas party, Lee telling me, you guys are all in trouble. I should kick your asses right now because my son, who's, I think he was like 10 or 10 years old, he goes, the fucker wants me to buy him turntables.
Exactly.
He's not going to be a bum like you guys in my office in 6 weeks, and if he is, I'm kicking all your asses.
That's right.
Because every kid wanted a set of turntables.
That's right.
And a turntable set back then was like $1,200, $1,300 just for turntables.
$300-$400
Right.
for the tables itself. Yeah.
But I will say this: in that time that we were hanging on at BMX, I think the only thing that was left when Lee left was the mix show now, because the station, I think the mix show is outperforming the radio station.
Oh, it definitely was. Definitely. Definitely.
And the programming, when you look at some of the charts that are on WBMX.com in the memorabilia section, you can see the alteration of programming because it got more urban adult.
Yeah.
Whereas it didn't seem like there was as much as a dance product being played. I mean, I can remember in '81 when I was in high school, and you go to school, and I wanted to see if I was on a lunch mixer or anything, so I put it on, and you'd hear Cinnamon. You hear things. You'd hear like Sweet Pea, or you'd hear In Deep. Those were club records, man,
right,
that were
right.
banging in the clubs. And when you were gone, that stuff, it was like the format had changed and toned down, with the exception of the mixes, the mix show. Now, when you were at GCI, was it that you couldn't? Do you know what the deal was, or do you know what the deal was between Super Mix 6? How many different names did everybody have?
What happened was, when I brought the Hot Mix 5 over, there was a lawsuit, and they tried to put an injunction on it. We actually went before a judge, and GCI won the right to use the name, the Hot Mix 5. In fact, the judge kind of made a joke and said to the management at BMX, well, maybe you need to go get the Hot Mix 6 or something. But the Hot Mix 5 is owned by these guys, and they can go where they want to go.
Now, were any of them under contract with the station?
I don't think, evidently wasn't a formal contract.
It was just an agreement. We were like independent contractors,
yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah. But and so GCI won that lawsuit, and we were able to use the Hot Mix 5 as we wanted.
Okay, so now.
And then that